We're here, we're queer, and we will continue to change the world. Welcome to Queer Changemakers. I'm your host, Justin Mezican, pronouns he, him, and each episode will share stories of LGBTQ plus individuals who are taking action to make a difference in our communities and beyond. Welcome to another episode of Queer Changemakers. Today we have Daniel Garza. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you for having me on your show. It's so good to see you. Happy New Year.
Yeah, it's Happy New Year. I've been planning this for a while, and I'm glad we finally get to have this conversation. Would you like to give the audience a brief overview of what you're up to these days?
Sure. Hello, everybody. My name is Daniel G. Garza. I'm out of Laguna Beach, California, and Happy New Year to everybody listening. What am I up to these days? A lot have changed between 24 and 25 in my life. Uh, for those of you who are following and probably know me, I was part of a really cool campaign for 6 years called Positively Fearless, which ended in October of 24. And right as it was ending, I was offered the opportunity to step in as director of anal cancer, HIV, and HPV advocacy for an organization called Cheeky Charity, which is an LGBT cancer support group. Uh, and my primary job, which is really kind of cool, would be going to pride events, uh, health fairs, and conferences across the country talking about anal cancer prevention, treatment, and post mainly, and then associated with HIV and HPV, which is kind of cool. And primarily our audience is the LGBTQIA2S plus community. So it's really great as a gay man to be able to go talk to other gay men about anal cancer and how to screen if they're going through treatment and post cancer, because sometimes we forget that we need help post cancer, and also for the caregivers. So we don't want to forget the people that take care of us when we're sick. The other thing that's happening is my coaching program, which it's called The Alignment, and that started a couple of years ago, but I'm really making a big push in 2025. And The Alignment is a transpersonal coaching workshop. It's a part life coaching, part spiritual coaching. That's called transpersonal coaching. And the idea of that program is to break down barriers and blockages that are stopping us from growing personally or professionally. And the way that it helps people in the community is those barriers that we've been created because of social norms, culture, religion, that kind of stops us from becoming the best version of ourselves. I swoop in with my program and hopefully help people break down those barriers. So those are the two most important things that I'm working on in 2025.
Awesome. Awesome. It's amazing. I like the two organizations' names and something that I appreciate a lot about our career community. Positively Fearless and Cheeky Charity. It's a good, I don't know, playful yet inspiring just titles, which makes it a little
Yeah,
bit easier to do the work and to maybe connect with more people.
for, yeah, for sure. Positively Fearless was a 6 year long campaign that was funded by Johnson and Johnson. And
Oh,
the idea was that it was five people living with HIV. There were two out of New York, one out of Florida, one out of Tennessee, and me out of California. And we all had a social media presence. So the idea was to show other people living with HIV how to live fearless and have a positive impact in your community. And I really do. I'm very proud of the work we did. We were the longest running HIV campaign in the US, uh, host, uh, hosted by the same group of people that started it. So it was,
mhm.
I'm very proud of the work we did. I'm going to miss it, but that doesn't stop me from being positively fearless in my work that I do as an advocate. And then Cheeky Charity, well, cheeky because it's just the name calls for it. When you're talking about anal cancer and colorectal cancer, the conversation tends to get very serious. And
Mm-hmm.
a lot of particularly gay men will shy away from the conversation. So the idea is that by having a cheeky name, we can invite them to have those conversations that are difficult.
I love that. I love that. Okay, when you got into Positively Fearless, they found people who had an audience or a following. Would you want to share a little more about your journey into that and the journey that's led you here so far?
Sure. So, and let me just start my disclaimer. I do not consider myself an influencer or a social media like,
Mm-hmm.
but I think we all are. I think once you're on and at least one person watches you, you've influenced somehow. But I don't consider myself like those people. Like, I say those people. I don't have a
Uh-huh.
million followers or anything. But okay, that said, uh, I started my career in broadcasting and television in Houston. Houston Media Source, which is a local cable access channel in Houston, was my first home. My first time on TV was on World AIDS Day, 2005. And I went on the air to do an hour segment on prevention and HIV. I was working for a nonprofit at the time, and I got the chance to be on. And I hosted the show. The director was my co-host, and for an hour. What made me famous of that episode was that I, on the air live, pulled out a dildo and a condom to show people how to put a condom on. And it was in Spanish, so it was very impactful for the Latino community to see another Latino talk about uh, condoms and prevention and how to take care of stuff. So for a while there, I was known as the condom man, el señor de los condones in Spanish, because I would take the bus to work and people would see me and
Mhm.
they're like, "Hey, you're that guy." And I always had condoms in my bag. Uh, so then in 2008, at the beginning of the YouTube crazes, is when I launched my page,
Mhm.
Lilmesican Productions, and started doing videos. They, if I look back at them now and I cringe at what I thought was really cool back in 2008.
Mhm.
And uh, but that was the beginning. I was doing those little 1 minute videos, and which led to morning tea with Daniel when I moved to California in 2009. And then that lasted for like 2 years, which I would wake up in the morning, hair sticking up with my cup of tea and just talking about something inspirational, which led to creating my own production company, Lilmesican Productions Inc., where my partner and I, Christian and I, own it, and we have 3 shows on the air now. We do a card reading spiritual show on Mondays. We have a talk show on Wednesdays, and on Saturday mornings is when I do my interviews, which is the show that you came on Saturday mornings. And so we have 3 shows on the air. We produce shows for other people. Uh, I'm all over social media. Uh, I just finished last year with my
Mhm.
1 year program. I did one video a day posting on National Day, like something we were celebrating. So if you
Yeah.
go back on my video and on my pages, you can go back to January 1st, 2024 and follow one day, a day every day, something that I celebrated. So I guess okay, yeah, I guess I do influence a little bit.
That's a very amazing skill and consistency. Just creating and putting yourself out there and putting media out there and just helping. I think there's a lot of people who want to do more things. And there are people who are doing things and it's like, okay, how do we make sure we stay consistent and keep things going? So with that, what's helped you do that, right? So every day for a year, you're like, today is National Day of XYZ and go for it. What's been your motivating factor or inspiration in that?
Uh, Mental health. If some of these projects started during the lockdown,
Okay.
the soon as we went into lockdown, in fact, the Christian and Daniel show that my partner and I do on Wednesday nights started a week before the lockdown. And it was more of a moment. True story is Christian was going to have a colonoscopy the next day. So I pulled out a camera that I had, and in an effort to calm him down, we did this little 45-minute show,
Hmm.
spontaneous. and people watch and people ask questions, and so then the next week when the lockdown came in, I thought, hey, this will be something that will be consistent. We can do this every Wednesday. And whether because we don't live together, either we're there together or we can connect online. And
Yeah.
every Wednesday we come together. And last year, well, first of all, last year was a leap year. So I wanted to take the challenge of a leap year. I love challenges. And I knew that it was going to be a transitional year because the campaign was ending and new things were starting. And I needed something that I could focus on and look forward to every day. That I was, I understood that the changes could cause some, the grief process, even when you lose, when you're ending a campaign of 6 years. So I was like, I'm going to need something to help me through the process. And it really did help. I'm not going to lie. There were days where it was stressful because I would record videos in advance. And sometimes I would forget and I'd be traveling. So I would be
Mhm.
recording at an airport or outside a hotel or something. But uh, I got a lot of good feedback from it. And I realized how some people were looking forward to that next day video
Mhm.
for their consistency and the responsibility that now you become part of somebody else's life for just that. There were 60-second videos, and to understand that you now you're part of somebody's world that you don't even know, that's
Mhm.
pretty powerful. I think that's where social media really, like, for me, that's where it takes its power, is that we can influence, the word, we can influence people without even knowing it. So that's what kept me going for the whole year.
Wow. Like I'm always intrigued about creativity and just the creative processes and seeing that as a mental health routine, seeing it as something to keep and stay in good mental health. I don't always think of it that way, but it's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
By doing it socially, you're also able to inspire others and just share these different things that are going on in the world and new perspectives. Huh.
I think sometimes fear stops us from our creativity. Why do painters paint? Why do musicians create music? And I'm neither a good painter nor a musician.
Mhm.
I have the ability, and I've worked on it I'll be celebrating 20 years in the career this year. So
Mhm.
December 1st, 2025 is my 20th anniversary in entertainment.
Yeah.
And what's kept me going for 20 years is that I understand that that's my creativity, is producing videos, is doing podcasts, is doing my shows. I enjoy it. As y'all can tell, I love talking. So that's my art. And if your art can bring peace to somebody else or make them think or stir a feeling, then why not do it? And uh, not to throw questions back at you, but like, what made you want to launch your podcast? And there's a need, there's a want. And so many people block themselves from doing what they want to do because who's going to listen to it? I'm not that important, etc. But all you got to do is just do it, and you never know who's going to be impacted by it. And I mean, that's just beautiful. But let me disclaimer
Mhm.
this. I'll end this part with that. Is that there are times when I'm like, nobody cares, nobody's listening. Who wants to hear from me? Then boom, the universe will send me that one message, or
Mhm.
I'll get a comment, uh, or somebody I see at a conference will stop me and go, I watch your videos every day. Thank you. And you're
Wow.
like, oh, that's why I did it.
Yeah. The creative journey is a fun one, I'll say. And there are definitely the ups and downs. Like you asked why I started this podcast. And on some level, just in other efforts that I was working on, I was just connecting with different queer people in different spaces. Like I think we first met at an alignable group meeting. And I was in different types of groups, different networks, and you just hear about cool people doing stuff. And it's like That's awesome. That's inspiring. And part of me is like, oh, I want to learn more. And then also thinking about what is my future holding and like what ways can I provide value and what are people even doing? Because it's easy to think, okay, there's only a few types of roles, right? A few types of ways to be. But then I talk to people like you and others, and it's just like, yeah, I'm an advocate for this group. Also, I have these 6 different entertainment platforms and shows that I'm doing 7 times a day, and I just finished one long project, and I'm about to start another one. And it's just like that sounds, on some level, it sounds like a lot, but then when you explain it, and this is how I stay alive. This is how I keep giving, I keep providing and serving value and just like enjoying time. Yeah, yeah. And like even with me personally, even on this podcast, there are times when I'm like, oh, people don't want to be a guest on my podcast. I should ask these people. And then I like build up the courage or just the effort to say, okay, today I'm just gonna send a couple emails and respond to people I've talked to in the past. And then people are like, oh yeah, yeah, sounds good. When can I do it? I'm like, oh, okay, okay. Next step, Calendly. Let's get this on the calendar. But yeah, so I appreciate what you're doing and keeping that going. Huh. I thought we would talk more about other things, but I love people. So there's a question that I asked later in the show, but I'll just ask it now because you
Okay.
are a creative person. Last year I chose co-creation as like my guiding word for the year, and my next word will be coming out in a future episode. When it comes to your creative efforts, what is something that you would love to like collaborate on someone else with? Or like who or what type of person would you like to be like, you know what, it'd be really cool if I knew someone who did this and then we could,
Ooh.
by our powers combined, we will do something.
Wonder Twin powers activate.
Yeah.
Um, I one of the cool things and is that I've in my show Put It Together, which is the show that you
Mhm.
were on. So everybody go find it on YouTube. Uh, Great interview, by the way. But um, I've done over 400 episodes on my show between the podcast and the live stream. And I've had the pleasure of meeting people from all walks of life, different backgrounds. Uh, my, okay, I'll give you a funny answer and a serious answer. The
Mhm.
funny answer is I would love to meet another Daniel Garza. And
Oh.
I've reached out to several Daniel Garzas out there, but I have not gotten a response. I want to know how another Daniel Garza lives his life. I want to see if they're as active as I do. How this how there's a certain pride that Garzas have, and I want to know it from another Garza. Like, hey, what's your life like? I would love to have a panel of Daniel Garzas and compare our lives. So if you're out there and your name is Daniel Garza, please reach out. I'd love to have you on my show. On the serious side, I've reached out to just like you. I've reached out to several like high people. Pete Buttigieg, I would love to interview him. I would love to have him on the show and find out about like his life, how he got, the show, my show for everybody, my show's called Put It Together, and it's how you put your life together or help other people, which is why I had Justin on the show. I would love to have him and say, Pete, how did you put it together? How do you make it happen? That would be one of my goals for people. Yeah, I'm gonna put that a period on that one. I think he would be my ultimate guest at this point in my life. Now that I'm taking on a director position in my work,
Mhm.
uh, I would really like to hear from him how he has moved up slowly and steadily and with such dignity and such patience with the opposition.
Mhm.
And he still does his job and has a family and a relation. I just want to know. So if you're listening, sir, I want you on my show. You never know. You might be listening.
We might be, and life happens in life for better and worse. Has a different kind of free time on his hands for now, maybe. I don't know what his future things are, but as politics shift a little bit here, who knows? And yeah,
So if anybody out there knows him, please send this episode to him and tell him that we would love to talk to him. He's got 2 podcasts to do now.
yeah. And if he knows any Daniel Garzas, that could also be
You
helpful.
know, you know, Daniel Garza's and a couple of tacos. How's that for an episode?
That would be amazing. I'm glad you answered the question that way too, because sometimes I think it's easy to think. sometimes it's fun to be serious. Lies. Sometimes my mind says, be serious, right? And then you're like, I just want to talk to a bunch of Daniel Garzas. Uh,
Life is very serious. And I just want to add to what you said, for those of you that don't know me, or if you've already Googled my name, uh, I'm 50, I just turned 54 December 26th, and I have lived through health issues since I was a baby. I've been living with HIV now coming on 25 years. I'm an anal cancer survivor. I live with an ostomy. I suffer from PTSD due to health issues. Uh, I just found out summer of 24 that I was adopted. So at 53 years old, I found out that, and thank you Ancestry.com, because through there I found my birth family, and I didn't even know who they were. Uh,
right.
so life throws you some very serious dodgeballs, and either you catch them or you duck.
Hmm.
And when moments when life gives you a funny moment, you gotta take it and enjoy it, and because you don't know when they're gonna come again. I mean, for those of you listening, the day we're recording is as we're dealing with the fires here in Los Angeles, and some of our friends have been affected. There's other things going in other parts of the country, and when a moment like this conversation comes up and it gives us a moment to be able to laugh, you got to take it, and without guilt, without remorse, just laugh. Period. I'll put a period there.
Yeah. I had a friend coach who was talking about, uh, I don't even know what she was talking about, but at some point she was like, yes, when I'm with my kids, whenever someone farts, we just laugh it out. Because at the end of the day, people will fart throughout life, farts are always going to be there probably.
Yeah,
So either we're going to have more laughter or we're not. So why
yeah,
not just laugh at situations that are just life happening? And yeah, there's always joy to be had, even in the hard moments.
even when I was going through treatment, when I was first diagnosed. So here's the joke. So for everybody out there, I also do stand-up comedy, particularly in health conferences, because I think it's great
Mhm.
to get paid to make fun of sick people.
Mhm.
And but when so I was diagnosed on Cinco de Mayo, May 5th, 2015.
Oh,
So first of all, there, as a Mexican to be diagnosed on Cinco de Mayo. And it was a Taco Tuesday too. So I was diagnosed on Cinco de Mayo, Taco Tuesday. And when the first time that I went for uh, chemo treatment, Christian, my partner, and I were making butt jokes as we were
okay.
waiting for the nurses. Because what else do you do when you have anal cancer? Is make butt jokes. And the nurse told us, I'm so glad that you are laughing and having fun, because this is going to help you through your treatment. And if at the end of
Mhm.
treatment you're still laughing, you guys are going to make it. You're going to, you laugh your way through basically one of the hardest things in your life. And we did. And I still make butt jokes whenever I get an opportunity. And, but laughter was a very important part of my treatment as I was going through cancer. Uh,
Mhm.
And yes, were there moments where it was very hard and difficult, and I completely wanted to shut down. But now I get to make jokes out of those moments and go, look at me, I survived it and I'm here. So is every hard moment an opportunity to laugh? Probably not. But um, if you can find the funny in it to get through it better for your own mental health, to ease the people around you, just do it. And I still travel to health fairs and conferences and do stand up and make fun of sick people. So it's cool.
Awesome, awesome. I don't know. I'm not surprised that you're like, oh yeah, I also do stand-up comedy sometimes. You just got a whole long list of talents and skills, and bringing them together to help entertain and delight and influence positively people. You mentioned this podcast episode, and I was lucky to be a guest on it about a year ago called Putting It
Yeah,
Together, where you just ask, yeah, I think it started with the question of, so how'd you put it together? And what is it? My life, my story, or parts of it? And that was the fun experience. I think sometimes life keeps moving and we take things for granted and we get busy and we lose focus and we're just focused on something specific and we don't always get to see this bigger picture of our lives.
yeah,
And I appreciate that opportunity to look back and look forward and be like, huh, this is where I am right now.
yeah.
Mm.
One of the typical answers. So put it together started in 2012 as a podcast, and then in the lockdown, my then talent manager and my producer were like, "Hey, we're going to be locked down. Why don't we do as a live stream instead of a podcast?" I was already doing some version of it, and they're out there on YouTube. And then, but for always and always, since the very beginning, I didn't have, as you remember, there's no questionnaire. People ask me,
Mhm.
it's like, what are you going to ask me during the show? I'm like, I don't know. Only one question is, how do you put it together? And hence the name of the show, Put It Together. And 95% of the times, the first response is, well, I'm still trying to put it together because that's who we are. We're constantly evolving and figuring out things. But isn't that the wonder and excitement of life? If we knew how everything was going to turn out, would we do it?
Mhm.
And in the show, we get to talk about how you're evolving and how you put it together. And then it's a live stream. So there's audience members asking questions and jumping in, and the conversation can shift in a different direction, which is really cool. So it's basically a live audience show that we do every Saturday. Well, all three of the shows are live streamed. So, but
Mhm.
I love asking that question, even when it's not on the shows, like how are you putting it together? And to see people's brain just grow and go, oh, well, let me tell you. And everybody has a story. That what was it in Still Magnolias? Dolly Parton, uh, Trudy says anybody over the age of 16 uh, has a story or something along that lines, and it's true. We all have a story.
Yeah. And thank you for helping to share more stories and also sharing so much of yours. Like, I feel like you're talking about one thing, you're talking about laughter and life, and you're like, here's some parts of my story. I was like, wait, there was a lot that happened in there. And I don't know what to focus on most. One, I'm like, wait, your birthday is the day after Christmas, which sounds great-ish, but also you got to share it with everybody else. Yeah,
Yeah,
that sounds.
there's this little kid Jesus that takes over the season, and now you got to celebrate with him too. How dare you? No. So funny thing is that in my family, I have a nephew who's December 21st, a nephew who's December 24th, and then another nephew who's December 26th. So I share my birthday with one nephew. So by the time they were born, like my birthday didn't count anymore. It's like, yeah, I celebrate a lot of my birthdays at McDonald's and Burger King's, which is kind of cool. Except when you get stuck in the jungle gym or the toy. And the, but now that I'm older, I get to celebrate in that time period, in that week. I get to celebrate Christmas, my birthday, and New Year's, which is a really cool little trifecta of celebrations, which is, I like it.
Celebration is life. And like we sometimes I put too much pressure on the New Year's resolutions or ideas, but I do think that it's good to celebrate a new year. Good to celebrate being able to be like, wait, what year is it? When I look at a date, it's like 2025. Wow. And I guess if you want to share a little bit about it, so where are you now in your processing the adoption like, hey, new
Wow.
information. Like, if you want to share and
Yeah. So I found out, I think it was in March of last year. And it was a couple of months. So I talked about the grief process earlier. There was a
Mhm.
grief process because this version of me that I had created based on the information that I had. So I'm a Reiki master. I'm an energy worker. I'm a card reader. So I work with energy a lot. And that my mom and my grandfather had that type of energy. So I had developed this version of my story where it was lineage and I inherited this gift from them. So and the card Devo is my alter ego in that arena. So it shifted. I was like, who am I? Like where did I get my hair from?
Mm-hmm.
Where did I get my sense of humor from? Where did I get my gifts from? Who, like, what, the last name? Like, so if I'm not this last name, what's this last name associated with? Where I come from, Monterrey in Mexico, uh, Garza is a very proud last name. There's a lineage to it.
Mm-hmm.
There's a macho energy to it. And I'm like, am I not Garza anymore? And it was a couple of months of pretty heavy depression. I did drop. It was hard. I mean, you still have to function.
Mm-hmm.
You do your daily things, but then when I was home, I wasn't sure. Who am I? And I'll be honest, I still don't know because we're still trying to figure out who the birth mother is and who the father is. And
Mm-hmm.
my mom passed away in 2020. So she took with her a lot of those answers.
Yeah.
And my sisters don't know. And my dad is suffering from dementia. So his memory doesn't track that very well. And for that reason, I haven't really approached him with the information that I found out. He doesn't know that I know.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so there are days when before I used to say, "Oh, that's part of being Garza," and now I don't know sometimes. So it's a little tricky, but I'm still hunting and figuring out, and I'm still putting it together. There you go.
That's a pretty great outlook, and thank you for sharing that. I I think there's that weird balance of, wait, who am I? But also like I've been me for my whole life, right? So it's like
Yeah,
it's an
yeah. And
interesting.
in my comedy, I tell people is like, am I like I'm not even Garza? Like, do I even like tacos? Am I even gay? Have I been lying to myself for 53 years? Like, who am I? It's weird to look in the mirror and go, who do I look like? Like
Mhm.
who am I connected to? Who do I have this trait from? You know, for those of you who are adopted and you didn't know for a long time, and you looked at you in the mirror, you looked at pictures, and like, who do I look like? Why do I, one of these things is not like the other?
Mhm.
And why do I feel like the ugly duckling? And when do I get to become a swan? And those things live in your head, and it's very difficult to let go of it. Uh, I think after all these years of being me, and I know people are going to be thinking, but you're still you. I know I'm still me. But now there is this door that I didn't know existed, and I can't get into it. I can't go in that room and find out what I need to find out. And that really does mess with your head. And I'll add this to it. Being a cancer survivor and having that advocacy work, for a long time, I spoke about there not being cancer in my family history because
Mhm.
there's not really. But now I don't know. And
Wow.
the whole platform that my advocacy was standing on was completely shattered. So part of my campaign now is helping uh, adoptees who find out later in life to put together their DNA history. And that's why I do work with the All of Us research group.
Hmm. Yeah.
I'm one of their ambassadors. Ambassadors. In fact, I'm the chair of the ambassador program. So, but my platform changed from just helping the LGBTQIA2S community to figure out their DNA to adoptees, and particularly those that have been pushed away from their families or don't know their family history.
Mhm.
And in the Latino community, one of my things is that Latinos usually leave their medical history at the border. We don't
Mm.
talk about it. So through the All of Us research program, I tried to bring immigrants into the program to get tested so that they have a better understanding of their DNA and what to look forward
Wow. Wow. And you added another thing that you're into. I'm sorry. It's so dynamic. And thank you for sharing that. So I do think that it's a journey that many other people have as well,
to.
and being able to help and come at it from that advocacy, cancer health perspective.
Yeah,
We can all agree, well, we should all agree that we want people to be in good health and to have that good health information. So that's definitely helpful.
and you look at the numbers, I mean, they're still rising of young people in the community, runaways, who, when, I mean, that, picking up your medical records, it's not on anybody's mind when you're getting away from a tough situation. So through research programs, we can at least help them put part of their story together. So
Mhm.
it was very important to me when I was asked to step up as a chair of the ambassador program to make sure that they were supportive of both my Latino background and my gay background, to make sure that we included those conversations in the national research. And I'm very excited and happy to say that they did. So I make sure to tell people, hey, if you're in a situation where you don't know your medical history, let us help you at least put part of it together. And we've got some good feedback, so it's exciting.
Wow. Okay. Okay. Whew. Um, I'm trying to like, okay, how do I put this back on a track? Just kidding. There is no track. Hmm. All right, I figured it out. You mentioned earlier with Cheeky Charity that you have an event coming on next month. Would you like
Yes,
to talk a little bit about that?
for sure. One of the important things about the cancer journey, yes, medication, doctors, treatments, but also your caregiver. A person's caregiver is just as important in making sure that you get through the journey with as little headaches as possible. So for me, my partner Christian was a big part of me getting through the journey. But we sometimes don't give the caregivers, not the professionals, but the caregivers, your partner, your family, your friends, the kudos and the celebration that they need and they deserve. So February 21st, Friday, February 21st is National Caregivers Day here in the United States. So through our production company in collaboration with Chicken Charity, we are hosting a 2 hour event. We're interviewing a group of caregivers in English starting at 12 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And then at 1, we're doing an all Spanish interview. So I'm excited that Christian is going to be part of the panel in English. And we have a couple of other guests coming up. And then in the Spanish session, my sister Nancy will be part of that panel. She was my mother's caregiver during her 15 years with Alzheimer's until
Mhm.
she passed away in 2020. So we're not just going to talk to cancer caregivers, we're going to talk to across the board caregivers. Uh, but yes, please join us. I'm sure Justin will have links and stuff. But
Yes.
but look for me on YouTube. It'll be there, and you can participate. You can ask questions. You can send us information. You can be part of it. But we want to make sure that Cheeky Charity not only takes care of people in the cancer journey, but we also celebrate the caregivers that are there for them.
It's amazing. We will definitely have links to the YouTube, the events, and all the many things in the show notes. And yeah, and one of the things I appreciate about that too is my mom, she had a mess from when she was like 30, and let's say I was like 6 at the time, until she passed away in 2008. So about 18, 20 years. And I think one of the challenges is, depending on families and how things are going, it's like, well, that person has cancer, right? So me taking care of them, you may not pay attention to all your own needs because there's like this bigger thing there. So I think having a focus on the caregivers and being able to support them, celebrate them, and remind them that this is a journey for everyone, I think that's really helpful. So yeah, really
Yeah,
good thing.
because you just said it. You were a little kid. Like, what did you know? And even if you weren't the direct caregiver, you
Mhm.
still were offering. And those barriers and blockages that that creates, if you haven't had the opportunity to talk to a professional about how it impacted you, then we want to make sure that we have a group of caregivers available to say, hey, I know what you're going through. I went through something similar. Let's talk about it. And we all know that sometimes just the simple act of talking about it helps us tremendously. But we, like we said at the beginning of the show, sometimes we don't know who to go to. And
Mhm.
so through Cheeky Charity, I want to make sure as director of advocacy, again, that we're not only taking care of the person going through the cancer journey, whether it's preventive, treatment, or post-cancer, but that we are there for the caregivers and offer as much assistance as we can.
Awesome. Awesome. Let's see. So, one of the questions that I ask uh, every guest, and it does not have to be related to what you're already doing, but when you think about our big, wide LGBTQ community, what is a future vision you have for like the next step of our community? So not
Ooh,
super in the future, but like what would you love to see in our community more short termish?
what would I like to see in our community?
Yeah, like what's a vision that would just excite you to see happen?
Uh, Good question. I think I would like to see better understanding between the generations. Uh,
Mhm.
there's so much has changed from when I came out at 17 back in 1988 to right now. And the amount of experiences and wisdom and knowledge that I have about growing up as a gay man can be very useful to the younger generations. But I
Mhm.
think that sometimes classifying the generations, Generation X, millennials, whatever, divides us and sometimes feels like the information doesn't relate. But I think that the coming out story is it's timeless. Uh,
Mhm.
there is still the rural areas. There is still culture, religion, and social norms that we live in. Geography. Somebody like, for instance, I grew up in Dallas, Texas, and there is still somebody like me who's probably 17, 18 years old. I was outed who is outed and is going through possibly the same experiences that I did. And sometimes social media has nothing to do with how you connect or relate.
Mhm.
When you feel that isolated, when you feel in that bubble of culture, religion, and social norms, there is nothing outside the bubble that feels like it's going to help you. And I would love to be able to say to that young person, like, it may not, you may not follow my steps, but let me share with you my story of coming out. Let me tell you how it happened for me. And maybe then we can create those connections. But I think sometimes it's just the community. We're so good at boxing ourselves,
Yeah.
tagging ourselves, labeling. Even in a generation that doesn't believe in labels, there's still a label associated. So my goal, or what I wish we could do, is sit down with younger generations. Me as a 54-year-old man, sit down with the younger generation. Go, tell me what you're going through, and let's see if there's something that we can connect. Let me be, because we talk about gay parents. Like a lot, I haven't heard the term in a while, but when I was younger, it's like, do you have gay parents? Like that person, that adult that helped you and guided you in your coming out story. And I really didn't. It took
Mhm.
a while for me to find a community. And let's be honest, when you're young and innocent, and naive, there's a lot of people that can take advantage of the situation. And uh, I was. And it led me into drugs and alcohol for many years. So if my partner, my friends can talk to somebody younger and go, what does your life look like? And what can we answer for you? I'm pretty sure that one of us has a story that relates and make it easier. So that would be one of my goals for this year.
Okay. Okay. Intergenerational connection and
Yeah.
communication.
Yeah. There's
And
something to being an old queen that could benefit somebody younger.
there is. And sometimes, like this new TikTok generation will have these ideas and these words that are like, oh, huh. Right?
Yeah.
You are also teaching me. Uh,
Yeah.
and there's this give and take, and I think that definitely helps our community come together more and be more of a community and grow, especially as I think about the shifting politics and political realities in different places.
Mhm.
I think there's a lot of insight that can be learned from some of the previous battles that were fought and some strategies that were effective, both in terms of making a change and in terms of here's what you do when external actors are trying to bring us down. Here's how we hold on to our dignity. Here's how we fight back. Here's how we take care of our own.
Yeah, there's something really cool. So here in Southern California, I get to visit seniors in high schools, colleges, and universities.
Mhm.
And it's different conversations. Sometimes it's about cancer, sometimes it's about HIV, other times it's about sexuality and coming out. And I am amazed at the freedom of expression that some of the younger folks have. So I call them kids with respect, but some of these kids, I look at them like, man, I wish I'd had your bravery and your courage to just express yourself the way you do. That some of us coming out in the 80s and 90s that we didn't have. And yes, I'm going to admit sometimes I'm a little jealous. I'm like, I wish I could go back to high school and college and just be out and free and not care. Um, so you're right. There are things that I see them and I'm like, wow, like I I'm going to take a little bit of your energy with me. So when things get tough for me, I can think about how brave you are. And it gives me a little bit of bravery. Yes, we can all learn from each other. So it's really cool.
Beautiful. Okay. So this year, 2025, World Pride is happening in my backyard here in Washington, D.C. It'll be about 3 weeks long, a variety of events, including like a human rights conference, a couple music festivals, like sports tournament things. Shakira has a local concert in the area. We'll be here, so they're saying that's the kickoff concert for Pride, and so much more. So who knows? Maybe you'll be visiting the area for that event. It'd be
Maybe.
good.
I have to talk to my boss about that, but yes.
It's an opportunity, but I've been asking people in preparation for that. When it comes to pride, what does pride mean to you? So it can be the word, the experience. Just when you hear pride, what do you think of?
When I hear pride, what does it mean to me? You know, I did my very first pride event when I was 20 years old in Dallas, Texas. You were able to be part of this youth group till you turned 21. I was part of a youth group in Dallas, and we had a float, and our costume was whatever you were wearing, but we had these pink capes that I held on for a long time. I finally lost it in one of my moves, but we had these pink capes, and we were able to decorate them however we wanted. And I think I put on the back of mine just a big G, like instead of Superman, it was a big G,
Hmm.
super gay. And I remember being on that float. And if anybody in Dallas, Texas, the parade is pretty long, but riding down Cedar Springs and seeing Latino families and I was 20, but seeing younger kids than me just excited to see somebody like them on this parade. So for me, pride, particularly in the community and the events, is the ability to show who I actually am, the good and the bad, the fears and the courage, and stay centered and grounded in who I am. That's when I'm at my pride. So when I'm at an event and you see people just centered in who they are, and we've all seen people like it's you're like,
Mhm.
wow, like this person is really holding on to pride, whether they're wearing the multicolored hair or the rainbow shirt or the tutu. I love a good rainbow tutu. When you can stand there in your pride and be like, despite everything around me, I know who I am. That is pretty awesome. Because sometimes I talk about religion, social norms, and culture a lot. Sometimes they creep back in your head and it
Yeah.
puts you back in that closet. Uh, but when you can stand in your community and be like, this is who I am. I'm Daniel G. Garza. Like, look at me. Uh, that is pretty awesome. That's a pretty cool feeling.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. I think that is one of the best experiences in and around Pride. And even so often, sometimes you see someone else who's not there yet,
Yeah.
but someone seeing that other person gives them a little more courage to step out a little bit more. Like I
Yeah.
showed up and I was just standing around like in the corner, just like paying attention. And then as time passed, I like let my hair down. I got a little more relaxed and like built into that. And it's like, there we go. This is why this matters. This is one of the reasons why this matters and why I am glad we still have these and will continue to have these. And yeah, I look forward to seeing how the world will show up in DC. And if you're here, you're invited to a party.
Thank you. Yes.
I don't know where it's going to be, but I will host it and it will be a fun time. And it's always good to see people in person.
Yes. It would be cool to, first, it would be cool to meet you in person. Second, to be there for such a celebration. And you're right. You don't have to you don't have to be in the spotlight to show your pride.
Mhm.
Like that's not what it's about. Some people are more comfortable. It's like in entertainment. Some people are comfortable in front of the camera, and some people are comfortable holding the camera. And we need
Yeah.
both of them to work. So wherever you are in your pride, celebrate it. And if the best you can muster is to come and watch us and clap for us, then we'll accept it. We'll take that.
Awesome advice. Awesome advice. Okay. Well, as we wind down, we've got a couple rapid fire-ish questions.
Cool.
And you ready?
Yes.
What is something that inspires you and why?
Something that inspires me is children. I love watching. I have a godson who's about to turn 3. I love seeing life through their eyes and the wonder that they see things with. So it inspires me to do better so that he can grow up in a better world.
That's amazing. Like, I was thinking about Christmas and I visit my nieces and nephews and family up in New York every Christmas, and that right there is one of the best parts because like they're like pictures like memories seared into my mind, and I also took a picture, but like seared in where like one of my nieces was like opening a bag of socks and it's just like I'm opening a gift and I'm excited and I don't know what it is and it's cool, and then they're opening new things and it's just like, oh, that's wonder, and just like, yeah,
Yeah.
it's definitely amazing. What is a self-care routine or activity that you enjoy?
What is a self-care routine? Naps. I am a big fan of naps. Uh, I have therapy later, so probably after therapy, I'll go home and take a big nap just to decompress from everything. But yeah, if you don't like naps, boo for you. I'm a big napper, yes.
Fair. I love naps. I just don't know how to find them. That is okay. All right. All right. Oh, yes, love this question. So, do you have a favorite joke?
Do I have a favorite joke?
Yeah.
Uh, yes. I have a couple of favorite jokes that I tell on a regular basis.
Hmm.
So it's okay. So here's my first joke that I ever did about cancer. It's like one of the best things that ever happened from having anal cancer is that I finally realized what it's like to be a Muppet. Because yes, because for those of you, it's because they do anal probes. Not everybody thinks that's funny, but and
Yeah.
when people ask me how's your cancer going, I said, oh, it's all behind me now because it was anal cancer. So yeah.
Nice.
Uh, and then the last one is when people say, why did it take so long for them to find your cancer? I say, because it fell through the cracks.
Oh, good one. That's it.
Thank you. They're not the best of jokes, but they're my favorite. And
That's
people, yeah, teenagers like to laugh at butt jokes. So because I present to teenagers, it works.
no, that's fair. I think everyone likes to laugh at butt jokes. It's but like those other things you're saying, culture and religion and other things like hold people back. I'm like, oh, I can't laugh. But we talked about it and laughter is important. So
Yes.
thank you for sharing.
And I invite everybody to go to my YouTube page and you can find a long playlist of comedy sets that I've done. And I do a lot of butt jokes in some of them. And I do a lot of relationship jokes too, which my partner loves to be part of the joke. So it makes, especially when he comes to see me at shows and I make a relationship joke and he's in the audience, then he gets all the attention afterwards. So it's kind of fun.
Okay, well, you open that door. Do you have a relationship joke that's just already settled?
So we met on OkCupid
Oh.
online when we first met, but we both uh, only got the free version. So you kind of get what you pay for.
Nice.
Yeah,
Uh,
I came with the discount.
oh, okay, let's see. We got two more questions. All right, next question is who is a queer change maker that inspires you?
Wow, good question. Because there's been several influences in my life from people who made a difference. I'm gonna go very, very back because and
Hmm.
to the very first person that I saw on TV that I was like, looks different, sounds different, walks like a duck, quacks like a duck,
Hmm.
must be gay. Uncle Arthur on Bewitched. Paul, I just forgot his last name. He was one of the first people that I ever saw on television, and it really made an impact on me. That somebody, it was all those celebrities that I used to see that
Hmm.
would make a difference, and I knew I was going to blank at some point. This is the moment to blank. But I think most recently, when we're talking about Pete Buttigieg, I'm sure I'm butchering his last name, but he's been one of the latest ones that has really inspired me
Hmm.
to continue with the fight and put myself out there and not let the other side put me down for the work that I do.
Yeah.
Uh, I'm in LA. I work in entertainment. I work in advocacy. I work in coaching, life coaching. And there's always going to be somebody on the other side who's trying to put you down for whatever, because I'm Latino, because I'm gay, because I'm older, because I'm short,
Hmm.
whatever the reason is. And those people that constantly put themselves out there were a big inspiration for me to say, hey, they're doing it. Why not me? So, yeah, I know I'm not giving a concrete person, but it's a whole array of people have done the work. And I'm like, hey, I mean, one of the first movies that I remember seeing like real gay relationship was, oh my God, now why am I forgetting the names? Matthew Broderick was in it. Shoot. Okay, I'll think about it in a while. But
Okay.
some of those movies that really inspired me to be like out and proud and
Mhm.
do it, go for it.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did Google it. So Paul Lind was
Paul
the
Lynn, thank you. Yes.
wow. Yeah. Every so often I forget that there was a past. And you look at something and you're like, yes, Paul Lind was on the show in the what, 70s,
Yeah.
maybe earlier, right? And it's like these people who were there and made an impact. And it just shows this queer lineage we have in
Yeah.
our queer ancestors whose shoulders we get to stand on. And even like you right now in entertainment, you have models of people in entertainment that you get to follow and who inspire you in one way or another. Uh,
Yeah, Harvey Feinstein on Torch Up
oh,
Trilogy. Torch Up Trilogy was one of those movies that I saw, and I was just like, it just blew me away. The level of love and in the character, his passion, and that's a movie that is very
mhm.
good about explaining culture, religion, and social norms with his relationship with his mother and how to fight that and how he stood his ground for the love that he had. And it also taught me about hate in that area because of spoiler alert if you haven't watched it, but if you haven't watched it, where have you been? Um, that movie, Torch Up Trilogy, was a gay manual for me. Like, this is life. And now, as an older gay man, to go back to the movie and check off things that I've lived through is like, wow, like it's just anyway. Arnold was his character's name. So for a time, we're all a little bit of Arnold.
Awesome, awesome. So I have not actually seen this movie, but
Oh,
it just means I have something to look forward to.
okay, so I'm glad I didn't spoil anything more. But yes, Torch Song
Uh,
Trilogy is one of those movies that you definitely want to have a conversation after and talk about it. So once you do, let me know and we'll
yeah, yeah,
talk about it.
sounds good. Sounds good. Okay. And now, final question. Do you have a piece of advice and or guiding word of wisdom that has been helpful for you in your journey?
Do I have any piece of advice or words of wisdom that have helped me in my journey? Yes. One of the things that I live by is if you think I can do it, I know I can do it. I have been given many opportunities, both personal and professional, in my lifetime where somebody was standing in front of me and said, hey, there's this opportunity. Would you like to try? And at times it was something that I wasn't even associated with, something completely out of my reality or my world or my spectrum of things. But I think that we tend to look down on ourselves, on the possibilities and abilities that we have. And somebody across from the table can look at us and go, I think you would be excellent for this. And I have learned through my wisdom and my experiences to say yes when somebody says, hey, I think you would be a great director at Chicken Charity for our advocacy program. And I think you'll do wonderful things. And when my nature would be to say, oh no, thank you. I couldn't several years ago, particularly after cancer, um, was to say, yes, if you think I can do it, I know I can do it. So let's give it a try. What's the worst that can happen? That I
Hmm.
don't succeed, that it doesn't work out. But what's the best that can happen? We don't know. We
Yeah.
don't know. And that is, again, we go back to the other question, like that wonder. You get to be a kid again and live this for the first time. I've never been a director of an organization. This is my first time. And if I go into it with that sense of wonder instead of that sense of fear, think of all the things that we can do. So, for all of you out there, when something comes to you, whether personal, professional, and somebody offers you opportunity, think about that. If you think I can do it, I know I can do it.
Ooh, thank you
My
so much.
pleasure.
This has been an amazing conversation and very entertaining, and your presence, your ideas, and your influence shows through, right? I can see the entertainer that you are, the stories you like to share, and just how it inspires me as we go into 2025. And okay, there's a sense of wonder. There is the opportunity for laughter. There's the opportunity for connecting with people across generations and seeing how we align.
And
I,
then and then just to end this, because I want to make sure that I give y'all some spiritual knowledge.
mm,
2025 is the year of nine. 2 + 2 + 5 is 9. It's the year of completion. It's the year of endings. Which gives way to new beginnings. So for those of you that were working really hard last year and you felt like you weren't getting anywhere, but you were learning a lot, this is the year to put all that wisdom and knowledge into action. So whatever you couldn't complete on 2024, this is the year to complete it. So go after your dreams, chase your goals, and see them through. And then next year, you can start something fresh. But there's a lot of things on my roster that I want to do. There's a book, there's a script. I want to do a national show. I want to get on a film. I want to be on television. There's a lot, but I need to concentrate on which ones I really can accomplish and be realistic about my goals and finish that. But this is the year of 9. So let's finish 9 strong, and good vibes to everybody.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Queer Changemakers. This is Justin, and I hope you were able to get some inspiration and maybe some ideas about how you can take action to create positive change in your life, communities, and beyond. See you next time.